All right. Thank you, everyone. Today is Monday, March the 1st of 2021. This is the meeting of the Metro Council Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee. If I could get perhaps if Hannah is on or someone from the council office to read through the governor's order.
Certainly. This is Hannah Zeitlin. So the motion is pursuant to Governor Lee's executive order number 78 regarding electronic meetings. I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Great. Thank you, Hannah.
Motion.
Okay. And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, fantastic. What I'll do then is I will begin going down the roll to be our roll call vote for attendance as well as for this motion. So I'll begin with Councilmember Allen.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Benedict. Councilmember Benedict. I'll come back. Councilmember Bradford.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Cash.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans. Councilmember Evans. She may not have been able to join us yet. Councilmember Gamble.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Hager.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall. I see Councilmember Hall has joined us. Councilmember Hall, do you have a vote? See, he's on. I'll come back. Councilmember Murphy is expected to be absent today due to prior commitments. Councilmember O'Connell?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Parker? Thank you. Councilmember Rutherford?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Stiles?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Toombs?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Van Rees?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Welsh?
Aye.
Thank you. I will vote aye. I'll circle back. Councilmember Benedict?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans? May not have been able to join us quite yet. And then Councilmember Hall?
Aye.
There you are. As like I said, I can see you.
It had some sound issues.
It's all right. Okay, so that's terrific. So we have a large number of items on our agenda today. A great many of them are on the consent agenda, however. So if you have your consent agenda that Matthew Wilkinson sent out this morning, what I'll do quickly is I'm going to read off just the items that are on consent and ask if there are any that need to be pulled off of that list. And then once we have that list established, then I'll read all the captions if that's okay. But so
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just request that you at least let us know what reading you're in? The version that I looked at I couldn't figure out where the consent items were, so I haven't marked this. If you could at least say, I'm on second reading now, or I'm on public hearing, in addition to the item numbers, that would be helpful.
Sure will.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So the items that I have on the consent calendar that was sent out this morning are for resolutions, and we have a lot of them this time. But it'd be item number 3, Resolution RS 2021-790. The sponsor is Councilmember Roten. Item number 6, Resolution RS 2021-795. The sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell. Item number 7, Resolution RS 2021-796. The sponsor is O'Connell. And item number 8, Resolution 2021-799. The sponsor is O'Connell. So those are resolutions on consent. The ones that are not on consent, at least at this time, are 2, 4, and 5. Items 2, 4, and 5. For bills on second reading, all of the items that I have are on consent, and those are items number 9. BL 2021-622, the sponsor is Councilmember Sledge. Item number 10, BL 2021-647, the sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell. Item number 11, BL 2021-648. The sponsor is O'Connell. Item number 12, BL 2021-649. The sponsor is O'Connell. Item number 13, BL 2021-650. The sponsor is O'Connell. Item number 14, BL 2021-651. The sponsor is Councilmember Sledge. Item number 15, BL 2021-652. The sponsor is Councilmember Sledge. And item number 16, BL 2021-653. The sponsor is Councilmember Sledge. And then for items on third, so that's all items on second reading are on consent so far. On third reading, I do have an item for Councilmember Pullitt that is not on consent. And for on our calendar, I have item number 18, BL 2021-623. The sponsor is Councilmember Rutherford. The council office let me know that that was not re-referred to our committee on the floor and that we don't need to consider it in this group. Councilmember Rutherford, do you have any questions or objections to that?
I do not. I've spoken with Hannah about it, so we're good.
Okay, so I will just include that, so that's not an item that we need to come back to. So out of those, are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda that I just read? Not seeing any hands, but I'll give everyone a second. So once again, those are under resolutions, items 3, 6, 7, and 8. Under second reading, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Those are on our consent calendar. So I'll give everyone just another second for any hands or objections. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and start reading out those captions. Can I get a motion for the consent calendar?
So
Second.
Great, so that's moved and seconded. I'm going to read the items on the consent calendar, and then before we take a vote on it, you can still have an opportunity to pull them if you need to, but just wanted to go ahead and get this started because it's a lot of words. So those are item number 3, resolution 2021-790. The sponsors are Councilmembers Roten, Van Reese, and Murphy. This approves an intergovernmental license agreement between Metro government by and through the Department of Parks and Recreation and the state of Tennessee, acting by and through its Commissioner of Transportation to construct and maintain a multi-use pedestrian greenway in Davidson County. The next item is number 6, RS 2021-795. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash. Authorizes Parking Management Company, LLC, to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 207 7th Avenue North. Item number 7, resolution RS 2021-796. The sponsors are O'Connell, Toombs, Murphy, and Nash. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Department of Water and Sewerage Services, to enter into a facility encroachment agreement with CSX to construct, use, and maintain a water main in the railroad right-of-way at Division Street south of 7th Avenue South in Davidson County. And then item number 8, resolution RS 2021-799. The sponsors are O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash. Amends ordinance number BL 2020-353 to authorize the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept additional sanitary sewer manholes and a fire hydrant assembly for property located at 810 Davidson Street. Those are resolutions for second reading. Item number 9, BL 2021-622. The sponsors are Sledge, Withers, Van Reese, Bradford, Young, Benedict, and Welsh. Changes the name of Kearney Street from 4th Avenue South to Inslee Boulevard to Bianca Page Way. Item number 10, BL 2021-647. The sponsors are O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash. Authorizes 3H Group, Inc. to install, construct, and maintain underground and aerial encroachments in the right-of-way located at 1500 Charlotte Avenue. Item number 11, BL 2021-648. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash. Abandons an an approximately 80-foot portion of Lee Avenue right-of-way between 7th Avenue South and 8th Avenue South. Item number 12, BL 2021-649. The sponsors are O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash. Abandons alley number 2058, right-of-way south of Lebanon Pike and east of Rucker Avenue. Item number 13, BL 2021-650. Sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash. Abandons alley number 142, right-of-way and easement from Lee Avenue to Drexel Street. Item number 14, BL 2021-651. The sponsors are Sledge, Murphy, Nash, and O'Connell. This abandons an unnumbered alley, right-of-way, and easement from 6th Avenue South and Oak Street intersection southwestward. Item number 15, BL 2021-652. The sponsors are Councilmember Sledge, Murphy, and Nash. Abandons existing public water mains and easements and to accept new public water mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for 2 properties located at 715 Merritt Avenue and Hagan Street. And item number 16, BL 2021-653. The sponsors are Councilmember Sledge, Murphy, and Nash. This abandons a sanitary sewer main, adjusts a sanitary sewer manhole, and to accept sanitary sewer main encased in concrete and 1 sanitary sewer manhole for 4 properties located on 13th Avenue South, also known as the AMEC Publishing House. Those are the items on the consent agenda. Last call for any items to be pulled from the consent calendar before we vote. All right, hearing no objections. Hannah, is it acceptable if we just ask folks to raise their hand if they have any objections to the consent calendar?
Yes, but also we'll need a reading of the names at least of everybody voting in the affirmative, if that makes sense.
Are you prepared to do that reading, or is it better just to do a roll call?
I'm happy to do the reading.
Because I get tongue twisted. Okay. So, what we will do then is I will call for hands for any in opposition to the consent calendar, and I will name them and see if Hannah, between you and myself, if we miss any. So, we're calling the vote for the consent calendar. Any in opposition, please raise your hand electronically. Okay, well, I see no hands in opposition, so I assume that means that it passes unanimously. And Hannah, would you mind reading off the rolls of those in attendance?
Parker.
Pardon me, Hannah, you're breaking up a little bit. Could you try that again, or I could try to read it off?
Right.
Is this a little better?
That sounds much better.
Okay, good. So voting in the affirmative, council members Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Gamble, Hager, Hall, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Rees, Welsh, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Fantastic. All right, so that will bring us to items that are not on the consent calendar, which is the first one of those is item number 2. This is resolution RS 2021-789. The sponsors are Councilmembers Toombs, Murphy, Bradford, Gamble, and Swara. This approves a grant application from the Tennessee Historical Commission to the Metropolitan government acting by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Historical Commission to provide for a comprehensive countywide cemetery preservation plan. Councilmember Toombs, would you like to move this item, or do you have a
Move for approval.
Move for approval? All right, is there a second?
Second.
Fantastic. Any discussion on this item? If I could, just as part of the discussion, is there any one of the sponsors may be able, or anyone from the staff able just to provide a little bit more information about this grant opportunity while we're here?
Hannah, is there anyone on from the Historical Commission?
I am checking right now. Is Tim Walker available to speak on this?
Tim,
Yes,
go ahead.
this is Tim Walker.
Go ahead, Tim.
And they just unmuted me.
Go ahead, Tim. You're recognized. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, this is an application. We wanted to take advantage of this. Our office helps to oversee the 500 plus rural cemeteries throughout the county. And many of those haven't been surveyed in more than 30 years. So this is a proactive way we can begin that process of updating the countywide survey of these cemeteries. And this is something we hope to do over a 4 or 5 year process. We hope to apply for this grant every year until this is completed. Given the estimates we got from a couple of consultants, this should allow us to do close to 20% of the cemeteries. And if you've read the documentation that was attached, this will break these out by sub areas and work them that way. But if anyone has any additional questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Great. Thank you, Director Walker. Is there any other discussion amongst the committee? Just trying to make sure I don't overlook any hands. I don't believe so. So having said that, what I will do is we have a motion and a second to approve, which is a proper motion. Hannah, if you're prepared, we will take a vote the same way, which is to have committee members raise hands if you're in objection. Otherwise, you will be considered an aye vote. And I guess I could also do an abstention. So please raise your hand if you are in opposition to this motion. All right, I see none. Are there any abstentions? All right, I see no abstentions. So Hannah, would you read the names of those voting in the affirmative?
Council members Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Gamble, Hager, Hall, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Rees, Welsh, Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next, we have two items. Hannah, for these two items, these are number 4 and 5. They're both resolutions. Is it possible to take them together?
Yes, these two can be taken together.
Okay. And I do see that Councilmember Druffel is with us. So item number 4, I'll read the caption. It's Resolution 2021-792, approves a construction agreement by and between CSX Transportation and the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through its Department of Public Works for reimbursement of CSX performed railroad crossing safety improvement post road. That's item number 4. Item number 5 is Resolution RS 2021-793. This approves Amendment 2 to an intergovernmental agreement by and between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Department of Public Works for the reimbursement of railroad crossing safety improvements at Post Road. Can I get a member of the committee to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Councilmember Druffel, I believe these are both in your districts. These are both in your district. Would you or staff like to give us any additional information about these two items?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I can make a quick note, and staff might be able to add more, but in essence, this is the corner of Post and Harding. There's a small incline as Post goes over to Harding, really very unsafe intersection where you go into a blind, in essence, a blind light where you can't see the light as you go across. This upgrades the rail arms and the traffic signal. That's just a brief summary of it, but we're going to get a significant amount of support from CSX, et cetera, in helping this intersection. So I move for approval with that, unless there's more questions, and I can get staff involved.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilmember Druffel. That's exciting. Is there any other discussion or questions from committee members? With all these screens grayed out, it's hard for me to see the hands sometimes, so please bear with me. I don't believe I see any additional questions. So we have a motion to approve that's been properly seconded as proper motion. So we will do this again. For committee members, please raise your hand if you are in opposition to this motion for these two items. I'm seeing none. And next, please raise your hand if you have any abstentions. All righty, I'm seeing no abstentions. So that means that unless you call out otherwise, we're going to mark everyone as being in the affirmative on these two items. And Hannah, would you read the names of those affirmative?
Councilmembers Allen, Benedict, Bradford, Cash, Gamble, Hager, Hall, O'Connell, Parker, Rutherford, Stiles, Toombs, Van Rees, Welsh, and Withers. 15 in favor, 0 against.
Fantastic. Okay, so according to my records, the last item that we have remaining on our calendar is a bill on third reading. The sponsor is Councilmember Pulley, who has joined us. And it looks like he does have an amendment. So first I'll read the caption, this is item number 17 BL 2020-529. This changes 0.13 acres from SCR to SP zoning for a portion of property located at 4004 Hillsborough Pike to permit animal boarding facility, dog kennel, and all uses permitted in SCR zoning. Can I get a member of the committee to make a motion on this bill?
So moved.
Second.
Fantastic. If it pleases the committee, could we get a motion on the amendment if that is what Councilmember Pulley wishes?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Pulley, we are on your bill as amended. If you would give us the details on this. I know you've been working on it for quite some time.
Are you on the amendment itself, or did you pass the amendment and the bill as amended?
I would like to take both together if we can, but yeah, if you would go ahead and discuss the amendment.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to discuss it in whatever manner you want to hear it. If you have the amendment, I'll just talk about that specifically before you pass that if you want.
I think that'd be great.
So one of the concerns that the neighbors brought up, which would be the obvious concern, would be noise. And so I went to a number of measures to really investigate the noise position of Dogtopia. And I looked at their noise mitigation features that they have with their construction and build out. And I also toured the facility over on 8th Avenue just to see it in action, and was actually quite impressed with what I heard, or rather didn't hear over there. So what the purpose of the amendment is, I'm real satisfied, and any of you would be too, I think, if you toured that facility, with the way they do their noise mitigation. Unfortunately, the SP doesn't specifically say Dogtopia. It says dog kennel and any other really generic description of what Dogtopia is. So in order to apply those standards to anybody who, just as a safety measure, to apply them to anyone who would be putting that use forward, I took the language from Dogtopia and drafted an original amendment. Councilor Murphy, you might remember, had some questions about that. So I had it really laid out in more of a layman's language that satisfied the lawyers that it would apply. And that's what you have before you now in the form of this amendment. I discussed this with Mr. Cooper and Anna. They both are satisfied that they can hold these standards to whoever it is that moves in. I also discussed this with Mr. Herbert. He is, with the Codes Department, he's satisfied with the language of the amendment and satisfied with his ability to be able to apply those standards. So that's the amendment itself. Looks like you have some questions.
I do. Thank you so much, Councilmember Pulley, for background. Do you have? So far, I see two hands raised. The first hand that I saw was Councilmember O'Connell, and then Councilmember Allen. So I'll begin with Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulley. Can you speak to whether any of your amendments give this facility an audit capability, such that if any dogs were to be let out, we would know who had done that?
No, they do not.
Do you have any additional follow-up on that, Councilmember O'Connell?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. Next, let's see, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work the sponsor has done to try to address the biggest concern, which is noise. And I think that's to his credit that he's been so diligent in that. And I keep meaning to get over to 8th Avenue to hear for myself, but I haven't done that yet, and that's important. Two questions are, as one neighbor pointed out, mitigation is not the same thing as elimination. Is there any information on what the decibel level outside of the walls? I mean, if it's reduced down, but you can still hear it, I think that's still problematic. So, I don't see any noise standards. It's only material standards, which. If that could be translated into what the decibel level would be lowered to, that would be helpful to me. And then I have a second question after that.
Well, what I can tell you is I was there personally, and I heard it, and you can't really hear a lot of it inside. I can't hear any of it outside. So the noise inside the facility, if you are standing in the parking lot, is really a non-issue. I can't speak to the decibel levels, but when I'm standing inside the facility, I was amazed that when I stirred up the puppies, how much barking went on, and how little of it I heard. Now, obviously, you can hear it inside, but it's not. And I can't answer the decibel question, but for me, as just someone who's listening to barking, I was really amazed at how little of it I heard when I was inside the facility. And I really didn't hear it outside the facility. And another noise component that was brought up, which really doesn't have anything to do with the amendment, was the dropping off and the picking up of the dogs. And I spent several hours sitting in the parking lot, really listening for that. And I watched, probably 30 dogs being dropped off, and never heard one bark. I also discussed this with neighbors. Probably the closest neighbor is, well, without question, the closest neighbor is the adult care facility right next door, which is about 50 feet adjacent. And I spoke with the CEO, and he said since they've been there starting October of 2019, he's never heard a dog bark. I also checked to see about complaints. And there were neighborhood issues very similar to what we're hearing now. And Codes Department hadn't received a single complaint on this facility relative to noise since it's been in operation.
That's helpful. So one more question about the coming and going part. Do they have any limits on when you drop dogs and when you pick up, or there could be people coming and going all day long?
Well, I suppose they can be coming and going all day long, but that's not the norm. When I looked at the 8th Avenue facility, it's basically a concentrated period between about 7 to 9-ish, with the majority of that coming between 7:30 and 8:30. And that's when the busy times were for drop-offs, and pickups were, right in the 3 to 4:30 range. Again, I saw several cars with multiple dogs. And one of the other things I was looking for is, I'd heard someone bring up the fact that this was really not good for dogs. I'll address that later when we talk about the bill as amended. But, these were dogs who were happy to be greeted by the staff person. And because of COVID, during the past year, really, they've had staff people out there basically greeting people in the parking lot and taking the dogs in. And it appears as though they're going to continue that policy because it's been going well for them, based on what I understand from the Dogtopia people. So, I saw happy dogs being dropped off, and I have yet to hear one bark.
Wow. Okay, that's helpful. I'm going to try to get by there tomorrow morning, because I feel like we owe it to the neighbors to make sure that they really are protected from impact, because there's a reason.
Completely agree, which is why I spent several hours out there myself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all the work you've done on that. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're on mute, Brett.
With that, thank you so much, Councilmember Allen, for those questions, and to Councilmember Polik for your responses. Councilmember Stiles, I think I had seen your hand. Did you have an additional question or comment on the amendment?
Yes, thank you very much, Vice Chair. Just wanted to ask the sponsor, with the amendment that's been proposed, has that been communicated at all with community members? Is any feedback? Do they feel like this would be an adequate solution?
Yes, it has been communicated with them. And again, you've seen the emails. Those who are staunchly opposed remain opposed, even though they are aware of the things that I've done. And, I understand that. It's change. And so to your question, yes and yes.
Okay. Do you have any additional follow-up, Councilmember Stiles?
No, thank you very much. Thanks to the sponsor.
All right, thank you. I don't believe I see any other hands for this. Hannah, what I think I would like to do for this one, just because I know this bill has been deferred a few times, what I think I'd like to do maybe is to take a vote on the amendments, and then we'll have the bill as amended, see if any additional discussion needs to take place for that, and then go from there. So if we could take a roll call vote on the amendment.
Councilmember Allen?
Aye.
Benedict? Bradford?
Aye.
Cash?
Aye.
Evans? Gamble?
Aye.
Hager?
Aye.
Hall?
Aye.
Murphy? O'Connell?
Parker votes aye.
Parker? Rutherford?
Aye.
Stiles?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Van Reese?
Aye.
Welsh?
Aye.
Withers?
Aye.
And Benedict? Benedict? And O'Connell? $13 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, great. Now, I appreciate that, Hannah. Now, quickly, I'm just going to give it another pass through or a couple pass throughs to see if anyone has any discussion on the bill as amended before we take a roll call vote on that. So if you have any discussion on the bill as amended, please raise your hand and I'll try to catch you. All right, I don't believe that I saw any hand. Councilmember Allen, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. I just, Councilmember Pulley had mentioned that he would address the being good for dogs issue. So I just wanted to give him the opportunity to speak to that now that we're on the bill.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I guess I can go through a couple of other things here, but this is in specific address to specifically address your question. That subject came up from one of the neighbors. So what I did was learn a little bit about what Dogtopia was about, and then I reached out to senior veterinarians at the Hillsborough Animal Hospital. They were very familiar with Dogtopia and what they did, and I asked them specific questions about, is it good for dogs? They knew what they did. And primarily, it's a doggy daycare. And they also knew the temper management procedures that Dogtopia has to introduce new dogs into the population. They did not have any concerns about any inordinate amount of cases that they see from people who take their dogs to Dogtopia. And in general, when we were finished with the discussion, the veterinarian stated to me that I'd much rather have dogs in a facility like that than I had sitting at home in a cage, which, you know, interestingly is what my brother does, puts dogs at home in a cage. So during the day when he's working. So in addition to that, I know that, you know, I called and contacted the Humane Society and asked the Humane Society if they had any position on Dogtopia one way or another, and asked if they had any complaints or concerns about anything that goes on over there. And they did not. They had nothing negative to say. They wouldn't really take a position on the bill, but they didn't have anything negative to say or complaints that they've received necessarily about what went on at Dogtopia. So that's what I did to basically mitigate that issue.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulley. Councilmember Allen, does that answer all of your questions, or do you have any additional questions or comments?
That answers everything I can think of. I still got to go by and see it for myself tomorrow morning, but I'll keep it going.
Okay. I don't believe I see any other hands. Could I, just for good measure, for the bill as amended, is there a motion from the committee?
Move. Second.
Okay, so the bill as amended is moved and seconded. It's a proper motion. Hannah, in this one, if we could just for good measure to take a roll call vote of this one, and then this will conclude our business and we can go to the next committee.
Councilmember Allen?
Aye.
Benedict? Bradford?
Aye.
Cash?
Aye.
Evans? Gamble?
Aye.
Hager?
Aye.
Hall?
Aye.
Murphy? O'Connell? Parker? Parker?
Parker votes aye.
Rutherford?
Aye.
Stiles?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Van Rees?
Aye.
Welsh?
Aye.
Withers.
Aye.
I'll try Benedict one more time. I think I saw her name still in the meeting. 13 in favor, 0 against.
Great. Thank you so much, Hannah, for your help in conducting today's meeting. Unless there is other business from the floor, I think that concludes the business of the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee. And I will accept a motion to adjourn our committee.
So moved.
So moved.
All
Second.
Right. All right. Thank you, everyone. And stay tuned for the viewing audience for the Budget and Finance Committee. So thank you.